Hi everyone! In this video, we're talking about sentence fragment errors. And so a fragment is an incomplete sentence. That means that it is not enough to stand on its own. It could be a group of words, it could be a dependent clause. Either way, it does not contain a subject and a predicate. So this is just a reminder, sentences must contain a subject and a predicate. A subject would be a noun or words acting as a noun, and a predicate is just a fancy way to say a part of the verb, or part of the sentence that contains the verb that tells us what the noun is doing. So if we're just looking at our subjects and our verbs here, our subject is Julia. Julia adopted Lumi from the shelter. So adopted is our verb, and this is part of our predicate, you know, that part where it's with the verb and tells us what the subject's doing. So this next sentence is a little bit trickier. After stopping by the bank, Zoya dropped off the new business credit card. So this is our dependent clause, and you're not going to be finding your subject in the dependent clause or the introductory element. Zoya is our subject here. Dropped is our verb, which is part of the greater predicate. So let's look at two examples of fragments. Research scientists from New Zealand. So this is an example of a fragment, and it's also an example of a fragment that is really easy to spot because, yeah, we have a few words in here. We have what could be our subject, but there's no verb. So right away, it's easy to tell that this sentence is not, in fact, a sentence at all. It's a fragment. So looking at the next one, after attending one of the largest art festivals of the year, this one's a little bit trickier because, you know, we have a verb, we have some nouns in here, but again, you're not going to find your subject in a dependent clause, and this is acting as, you know, what's going to be an introductory element. So you could say after attending one of the largest art festivals of the year, and then we have this comma right here that I accidentally drew over. John opened his own gallery. So that could turn it into an independent clause with John being our subject, opened being the verb, which is part of our predicate. So let's look at this last example here. This shows us how it can actually be really tricky sometimes to identify fragments. A thoughtful and inspiring tale that combines over 30 classic stories into a 3-character play set in Rome, shocking critics with its originality. So this right here with the comma, this is an interrupter. This is not essential. And so we're not going to be finding any of our independent clause in here. So we can go ahead and ignore that part of the sentence. So let's take out our other modifiers. The best way to see if a fragment is truly a fragment is by taking out the extra descriptors. So we can take out a thoughtful and inspiring, and then that is a relative pronoun that's just telling us more about what kind of tale it is. So anything that's included in this phrase right after that is actually just a descriptor for tale. So it's telling us what kind of tale it is. A tale that combines over 30 classic stories into a 3-character play set in Rome. So all we really have here is a tale. And a tale could be a subject, but it could not be a full sentence if there's no verb. So what could make this into a full sentence could be a thoughtful and inspiring tale that combines over 30 classic stories into a 3-character play set in Rome is about to open in New York this week on Broadway. That would turn it into a full sentence because then tale would be our subject, and then if we have is about to open or set to open, then is would be our verb. So again, this takes practice. It can be really tricky. And as we've seen, some fragments are easy to spot, but the longer ones are tougher. Just ensure that you are looking at the bare bones sentence. Take away the extra adjectives, take away the extra modifiers and descriptors, and see what you are left with.